And welcome to I Am Human. I'm Journey Ryan filling in for Bunny Sugars, but that's only because today we are here with Bunny.
You thought you
What's
could
going
get rid
on?
of me.
Everybody's wondering, like, oh, I see Journey, but where's Bunny? Well, the
Yes.
shoe's on the other foot today, as we are going to be sitting and talking to you and asking you some of those beautiful questions about, your life as a psychic, you know, letting to know a little bit of the human side of Bunny versus the side of Bunny that everybody else has not got a chance to see. I mean, everybody sees the psychic version, but let's see a little bit of that human side pop out. It's always
That's
going to
going to be
be.
a mess. It's going to be a mess.
It's always a mess with you, girl. I'm always following you around with the broom and the mop. Let's sweep this up, clean up this unsell shit.
Uh, yes. I
But
have
I'm
no
looking
control
forward to
over
having.
it.
I've been looking forward to having this interview with you, and getting the chance to get to know Bunny. And as you've got bunnies, you've talked about your fur babies before
Yeah.
here on the show a couple times, and we'll get into that a little bit further on. But Bunny, let's go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Hello, everybody. So you all know me as Bunny Sugars. I am a empath tarot reader. I'm kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none. But I have been doing tarot and other spiritual work probably for a solid 15 years probably. So I started underground. I was not public or out about what I did. I was very much the child who hid everything from my parents, unfortunately. So I wasn't public with it, and I really didn't start doing tarot live in person in public until maybe 3 or 4ish years ago, something like that. Timelines are a little bit fuzzy with me, but we're gonna get into everything about me. It's like every time I sit here and talk about myself, I'm sure I'm gonna forget everything. I'm gonna forget something, and then it's gonna come up at some point. So
Exactly.
I'm a little bit of everything, but I'm very happy to be here with you guys today.
Are you really happy to be here on your own show?
I'm not gonna lie, it's a different experience. I
Right.
don't have control.
Now you're in the passenger seat of your own car. So the thing is, guys, if you have any burning questions that you would like to know about Bunny and how she does readings, or any questions that you may have personally for her and for Bunny, about Bunny, not any psychic readings from Bunny at this time. We'll get to those at a different time on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. instead of Mondays. All right, so let's start off with one of the easier questions. Is how did you realize your how did you recognize your psychic ability? When did that come into play?
So honestly, it's a little bit complicated because, like I said, timelines are super fuzzy for me. However, in a conversation with my dad, he had let me know I was intuitive from a very early age. I already knew who was too much for me before I knew what or how to spell too much. So I was very intuitively strong growing up. And I don't think it really started hitting me that I actually had an ability until I was a lot older. So this is going into like maybe 2023. When I was
Right.
younger, though, I was very curious. And so I started dipping and dabbling in things. I think I started with palm reading, and I was in middle school. And so it was just a fun thing I would do. I would just do palm reading in middle school, not thinking anything of it, but it was
Right.
like this cool little thing I did as a kid. And then that just grew into this really darker sort of interest, and I got very deep into like the occult world. I wanted to be a demonologist at one point. And then at some point in my later teen years, I ended up getting my first deck of cards that I inherited from my uncle who had passed recently, or within that time frame recently. And that is when we just took off into everything. So I think I really didn't notice I had a skill until I was probably about, I'm going to say like 21, about 21.
Well, no, that's okay because there are people who have abilities and gifts and don't realize that they should use them, or even they don't even take a look at those gifts until they're much older. You know,
Mm,
you weren't in a family that was, let's say, supportive in that way. They
yeah,
may be supportive in other ways, but in that they did not, you know, they did not catch on
yeah,
to it until much later. Like your dad saw that you were intuitive, so he
mhm,
knew there was something special about you at that point, but
yeah,
he didn't force it on you, or he didn't encourage it either, because I don't think
yeah,
he knew how to communicate that with you as well. You
yeah,
know, when we don't always listen to our own self. So when somebody else we see listens to everyone's selves, it's harder for us sometimes to go, oh, you know what, you should be, you should stay
mm,
focused on that. Your dad was more than likely the guy that was like, I don't know how you know that, but we're going to leave that right there. You discover that on your own time. You do that on your own time. I don't know what to say to that. And we get, into
yeah,
those places where we don't recognize what we're doing. So,
yeah.
so it
I
definitely
think it
makes it a
was
lot harder.
I think it was like that with both of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
My family has more of a religious center, not in like a overdoing it kind of way. But I think with my parents, they did as most normal
Mm-hmm.
people's parents would. They see the thing, they see the interest, but because they don't understand it, they're not going to invest a lot into that interest because they don't want me, especially being a sensitive child, being more a little bit unstable emotionally, especially coming up into my early teens. I was very emotionally unstable. They did not want to
Mm-hmm.
see me slipping down a dark descent. And so while I was younger, I was mad at them for not, embracing it or just being more
Mm-hmm.
understanding. As I'm in my 30s now, I'm like, okay, as a parent, you wouldn't entertain that too much. You just want your child to not feel like they're crazy and make them feel loved and sort the mental and emotional stuff out first. Then we get into that stuff. And I think that's what they did. I didn't get it, but now
Right.
I do. I've learned.
Right. And sometimes, parents that aren't familiar with a subject, that's the subject they will skip over because they don't want to lead you down the wrong path, or, talk about something they have no idea what it's like.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it skips generations, sometimes it, goes further, but,
Mhm.
um, they say that sometimes, but I don't really feel like it actually skips anybody. Psychic abilities to me, I don't see, everybody has a psychic ability. Just
Yes.
depends on how you use it and how much you acknowledge it. There has to be a somewhat of an acknowledgement of seeing that psychic ability, understanding it, and then broadening it from that particular moment. I mean,
Yes.
you guys will get to find a bunch of stuff out about me next week when we
Yes.
change. Bunny and I are going to switch. We're going to switch switch gears here, and she'll be interviewing me.
We're gonna do
But
it. Get the
yes,
joking down.
but the thing is that it's really cool that you were capable of recognizing it, but honest about, yes, I may have been intuitive, but I don't remember how I did that up until I got more into my 20s. I
Mhm.
was, the same way. I mean, I've been intuitive and psychic my
Mhm.
entire life, and I've heard stories from my own family about how I did things, but those are things that were
Yeah.
told to me, not things that I remember on my own. It wasn't until I got much older, well, I wouldn't say too much older, it was like 9, 10, around that age frame. Then I started to start recognizing what I was capable of doing and what I was able to
Mhm.
see. And, I was talking about things that I
Yeah.
had no idea. I mean, even as a young kid, I was talking about people's taxes and shit, and I didn't. What the hell are taxes to me?
I
I'm
know what
5.
the
I'm
hell
like,
it is.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know the answer.
Right. I kind of feel like it's so hard for me
Mhm.
to kind of think back and understand where things started to just pop
Mhm.
for me. Because I remember one day very distinctly, I think I was like maybe 11 or 12. And I remember I was walking home from my little area complex, and I'm walking to my house, and I'm hearing voices and music playing behind me, but I'm the only one outside. And so I was very confused. And I think because I really wasn't mentally or emotionally aware of like everything around me, I think that's when things started to just tick. And then I turned 13 and everything, to put it bluntly, just went to shit. Like it just went boom. Like
Well,
13
there's a
was
time in
really
our right, and there's that time in your adolescence, let's say 13, 14 years old. Not only are you going through time of your life where you're all their body are changing, you're
Mhm.
the things, superficial things seem to be more important to you at that time because you're still trying to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that we kind of lose ourselves from like the age of 13 going into 16. That becomes a gray area for a lot of people because we're looking and testing and trying different things and trying
Yeah.
to find who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, from 13 under, you're basically whatever your parents are pushing you to be, and then you become your own person.
Then you get there eventually. But like
Yeah.
adolescence was really tough. I was emotionally out of sorts, chemically imbalanced,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to call it that. I was physically beginning my descent into chronic illness at that time. When I start thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it, it was around 12, 13. And at
Oh.
the same time, physically and mentally and spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was just getting jackhammered like my entire adolescence. There was no break. I was just tired. And I was
Right.
tired, grouchy. I was very hostile as a kid. Like most people
Mm-hmm.
look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're not mean at all." Yes, I am. Yes, I was. I was a piece of work, and I was truly a not so nice person. And it wasn't because
Mm-hmm.
I was really a mean person. I was just emotionally and mentally and physically expanding and declining at the same time. And when you're going through that as a kid, there's no way for you to understand what is happening and parse all those things together and like, oh, I'm having a spiritual awakening, and oh, I'm developing mediumship, and then oh, at the same time I'm going through middle and high school, and at the same time your
Mm-hmm.
body's starting to give out. Your body's not having the time of its life. It
Well,
was
at the
too.
same right, as you were just saying, and the stronger emotions can help block out some of those, like those images from your mediumship or
Mhm.
knowing something about somebody you don't want to know, but yet you do want to know. And then what they say, and we're still in that development stage of trying to figure out, you know, who we
Mhm.
want to be, who we want to be with, who we want to hang out with. Then you start hearing the chatter from how people view you, and then you into that depression.
Yep.
As growing up as a medium, as someone who is got this psychic intuitive energies, you can read a room. How did you feel growing up when you could hear that chatter from your classmates and friends that surrounded you? How did you get around that? Because as you said, you created anger in a sense, and I know what you mean because anger
Yeah.
is louder than the other vibrations. But
Yep.
tell us a little bit about that.
So growing up, I was always a weird kid. I was bullied because I was just a weird kid. I was always quiet. I was
You
always
were unique. You were never weird, just
oh,
unique.
but I like weird. I like weird. It is what it is, but I embrace it. But for Journey, I was unique. Um, I was very quiet as a kid. I was very to myself as a kid. I really wasn't the type to go outside. My outside time was in my room playing video games from like the moment my thumbs could work. So growing up and discovering that I had the ability of mediumship was absolutely terrifying. And then to hear how I was perceived by others, because kids are already mean enough as it is. You're young. I don't blame anyone. You're young, you're learning, you're trying to understand what life is, and you're wanting to fit in. Kids are cruel. And I was on the receiving end of a lot of that cruelty. And it was just because of how I looked, how I acted, how my mannerisms were. I am ADHD. I'm also autistic, along with the other host of crap I have. And so I did not fit in at all. And so I could never understand why people didn't fully like me too much. It was confusing. It was weird.
Did it make it feel like you had to mature faster, or, because going through that as I was developing my own,
Mhm.
I felt as though I had to mature much quicker than my peers. Like everybody else, when it came to me at 9 years old, I
Mhm.
was the mentality of a 16, 17-year-old at the age of 9. And, so I was getting all that
Yeah.
real life stuff that, the adults are going through. Clearly at 9 years old, I don't know what these things are. So I
Mhm.
would go to my mom and explain these things to her, and then she would be able to help
Yeah.
me better understand. But I had a different support system, and we'll get into that next week, I think. Um, with
Mhm.
you, was that something you felt like you had to do, is just grow up a lot quicker?
I do think I do feel like I grew up a lot quicker, but then also emotionally, I didn't grow up until much later, honestly. I think how I behaved as a child, like I've always kind of said on the sidelines, I was the one child my parents didn't have to worry about because I wasn't outside like that. I wasn't with friends like that. I really didn't give them anything to worry about except my emotional state. For me, I think that growing up period, it
Mm-hmm.
was more how I perceived everything around me and that how to emotionally navigate to just stay stable. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of how I reacted, I was still very much a kid. So I wasn't able to articulate this to my parents growing up. I didn't know how to talk to my
Do you
siblings.
believe do you believe that you stayed in that mentality just because it was easier to keep you? It was like it was separating you from the ability, because the unknown, like imagery coming,
Yeah.
someone else's emotions that don't belong to you. And especially if someone who is, a child, how do you deal with the emotions of a grown adult who is completely stressed out? Maybe they're going through a divorce, maybe
Mhm.
they had a family member lost. So a lot of these, and I know quite a few psychics that
Mhm.
referred to their innocence as a form of protection, versus, and then
Mhm.
as they got into their adolescence, they would consider themselves, you know, they called themselves an asshole, or they would act out. And the reason they would do that is because that vibration was much higher than the ones that they were
Mhm.
feeling. So it was the only way to keep them from feeling everyone around them.
Mhm.
They're, oversensitive.
It's complicated. It's complicated because in a way, yeah, that sort of being able to, I guess, like it's like an emotional disconnection I had to do. And it's so hard to explain because I feel like I was present during my adolescence. I was present during these scenarios, but I wasn't, because how do you how do you parse through those things? And it's something even I don't realize how I kind of made it through. Because at the same time, I'm picking up on everyone else's emotions. I didn't realize that. I didn't understand that. I think honestly, I ended up just emotionally shutting myself away. I was very much a recluse growing up. I had
Mm-hmm.
some friends, but I didn't, interact a lot. Like it was always a running joke where every 6 months I would let my friends on Facebook know I was still alive and then disappear for another 6 months and then do it again. Like I was very reclusive. So I think my way of dealing was just emotionally putting myself in a box, playing video games in that box. That was my emotional release. That was the only way I kind of could tune everything out, was me playing those video games. So it's kind of hard for me to say 100%, but I do know the video games have been my saving grace my entire life.
I was gonna say, you in video games, is a lot of people don't who don't know you personally, you are a gamer. You love playing these video games. It's your escape
Yes.
from the real world, and just gives you a place to kind of relax. Or is there any other thing besides video games that you can get that same type of that feeling where you can escape yourself? Or is video games your hardcore, you know, escape?
Video games are going to be my first love, my main love. That is
Uh-huh.
my main. However, I especially in my later years, as in my 30s, I'm only 31. My later years ain't that late, but in my later years, baking and cooking is the one,
Ooh, yeah.
specifically baking. I will sit there. I remember when me and Kay first started meeting and we started communicating more, I would be up 6 o'clock in the morning, cleaning the house and baking a cake. Just baking a cake at 6 a.m. And it was the most bizarre thing, but then I started realizing that was one of my comforts. I'm also at some point in my life a musician. I was in orchestra for my entire school career. I played viola, and then I transitioned into bass guitar. I stopped both, but the desire to play them is kind of it's still, the desire to get back into bass is still very strong, and I might just have to cave. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing that kind of helps give me that emotional release, aside from shopping, I'm very quick with a card and an internet provider to go shopping. But aside from that, I think it's starting to become voice acting. That's something I've wanted to do since I had graduated high school. I never got into it. But there are like drills on the internet you can do where you're giving a character and a script and you have to act it out. And I've learned that is something that brings me this weird sense of enjoyment that I've never felt before. Like, I'm laughing while I'm doing it. I'm having so much fun while I'm doing it. I don't understand it. I'm still in the self-discovery phase, but there are a couple things I do outside of video games that help take me away mentally. Help me just delete myself for a little bit. Just
We take ourselves away, absolutely, and I agree with that.
yeah,
We have to have an outlet where we can separate ourselves from the emotions and the energies that we're in.
yes,
Constant, it's like an antenna. We're constantly being bombarded by all the vibrations. And
yeah,
you'll know a lot of psychics will be more pulled back. They like that home life. They like, yes, they'll go out in nature, or they'll go to events and things like that. They only go to events and things when they know that they're prepared for it. For the most part, they do spend a lot of time at home. They love that
yes,
home life because there's not as many vibrations, and they don't have to, you know, constantly, answer questions,
mm-hmm.
or feel somebody's energy in this matter. But
God,
for
I
all of
love
those people
that.
who are just now joining us, if you guys have a question about Boney that you would like to ask, guys, go ahead and put those questions in the chat room, and we'll be getting to those here in just a little bit. But we are learning all about Bunny and who she is, and we just discovered about her being a gamer and finding a way of escape, and a little bit about her childhood. If you guys
Mm,
miss any of this, you guys can always go back on our YouTube channel and rewatch this episode. It's absolutely awesome. Next week, Bunny's going to be here with me again, except for the shoes are going to be on the other feet,
yes,
and
I
she'll
can
be
feel
interviewing me. And then again, we'll get to another wonderful person. Cassidy the Card Slinger will be on the following show. So, guys, get ready for that. We're going to have a lot of fun here. All
yes.
right. So, with everything that
Mhm.
when you decided to accept what gifts that you have, did you immediately jump into doing readings for other people? Did you start off with family and friends? How did you enter the realm of being a professional psychic?
Ooh, okay. So when I first got the inclination, the understanding, someone had to say it directly. This is something you will learn with me a lot if you know me personally. You have to be very direct when you're speaking to me, because if we're not direct, I'm going to look at you kind of confused. I had went to therapy for the very first time when this happened. And my therapist was a lovely lady. I hope she's doing well now. I hope both sides of her pillow are cold. But
Well, I'm waiting for the but.
but literally the first therapy appointment I went to, she asked me something so bizarre. She's like, "Do you know what an indigo child is?" And I looked at her and I'm like, I'm hearing you, but I don't understand. She was like, "You're not mentally ill. You're spiritually gifted." She's like, "Nothing I'm seeing here is resonating that way." So me being a kid, I told my mom what was going on because she wanted me to talk to a psychic who was going to be at a convention not in a few days, or like in a few days. However, my mom was like, "No, I need you to get help before we go through any of this mess." And I was still, underage. Shortly after, I was taken away from that therapist, but that's when I started getting the idea. That's when so you have to be very direct with me. And she was extremely direct. And she taught me some meditation techniques, close enough.
Medication for the mind, girl. Medication for the mind.
But she taught me some meditation techniques, but I never forgot what she said. It wasn't until I got in contact with my Uncle Terry, who is on my father's brother. He's my father's brother. He passed away right shortly after high school, but he was the one who also told me, "You're gifted, and I need you to see it in yourself because you're going to do great things. You just don't know it yet." And he, in his letters, would encourage me all the time. And then he passed, and I was able to get his tarot cards. And I still have those cards to this day. You guys actually see these cards all the time. It's the same deck I use. I love that deck. That is my very first deck. And
nice.
That's when I started practicing. I never practiced with my family because I didn't tell them, not openly. I'm pretty sure my parents are smart. I'm pretty sure they had a clue, an inclination. They weren't like lost in the sauce. I'm sure they knew I was interested in certain things. But I never expressed it vocally. So around maybe I used to do it in private. I did it in private. I might have did it for some friends periodically, but I always studied in private and just figured it out. And then I was like 20, I had to be like 24 when I met, or 25. Timelines are iffy, but I met a woman who became my very first mentor. We met through one of the games I played, and she is a professional psychic. She was damned good at what she did, and she told me, or taught me, how to read intuitively. She said, "Throw every guidebook and those cards away. I'm just going to force it out of you." And that's exactly what she did. That's exactly what she did. It was by force. And then that's where we started. And ever since I met her, I don't know how I've gotten here. I just know
I do. I mean, you persisted to continue your craft. I mean, you stopped pushing away the opportunities and started to accept those opportunities, which led you to here and to be a part of, these bigger things. And, you said something about going to therapy, and when you went to therapy, they were trying to dismiss this mental illness about you.
Yeah.
And as they saw no mental illness, but that you are an indigo child.
Yeah.
I know I have an answer on this, but I'd love to hear your perspective on the answer of children who are ADHD, or you see those that have these maybe, let's say, mental disabilities. Do you believe those to be disabilities, or those to be children who are on a higher vibration to a point what we can't understand? So I know where I stand on this, but I would love to hear your insight on that.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of everything, honestly, just from my own experience as someone who does have these, we like to call them complications. They're complications. I feel like I don't learn any different than anyone else. I don't function any different than anyone else. My ability to give a crap about certain things is just diminished. So if I don't care about it, I'm not going to bother with it. Does that
Right.
mean I operate on a different frequency? Maybe, but also I think I'm highly in tune with what I as a person need. So I almost feel like it's more of a, you know yourself better than other people can understand you.
Correct.
It's like having a secret language between twins. It's like you understand and have a language with yourself outside of others. So I do think there's this parallel between being able to, or being someone who is mentally disabled. You're not disabled. You're
Mhm.
just, I hate to say it like this, differently abled. I'm just as smart as anyone else. I'm smart as a whip when I feel like it. But most of the time that's a lot of thought process and I just don't have time. I'll school you later. It's not that
Right.
it's not that I'm not, it's so hard to explain. Yes, we're on a different plane, but sometimes we just like operating on our own foot. I think it's hard because I've never had to personify myself that way, if that makes sense. Never had to think about
Right.
it like that.
Right. And then, and my own understandings of, being with even those who are, I have the ability to communicate with those who are
Mm-hmm.
mentally challenged, disabled, things of that nature. So I've had the great understanding of getting a chance to read that vibration from them,
Mm-hmm.
gestures that they make, things that some people, they're like, oh, they're just disabled. They don't function
Yeah.
right, and I'm like, that's not the case. They vibrate at a higher level than which you don't recognize.
Yep.
And some of these kids that I've had the chance to work with when I did Special Olympics and stuff like that, I would go and help and volunteer, and and I got the chance to work with the kids in the wheelchairs and those that
Mm-hmm.
couldn't speak, but I could still communicate with them. I knew exactly what they wanted, how they wanted it, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe that was my own psychic gift, allowing me to connect with them on that level, that they
Yeah.
were on the level where I don't have to use my vocal cords in order to communicate with you.
Yeah.
I should be able to communicate to you through thought. And
Yeah.
that's where, I saw that. So the way you were explaining it is, yes, you were beating to your own drum. You were,
Yeah.
in tuned with it. You didn't have to worry about that. Just because one person understands it differently doesn't mean that the way that the other person explains how they received it doesn't make it wrong. It's just the way you interpret it, but you still get the same answer. You're still on the
Yep.
same page.
Yep.
So
We're
yeah, I
there.
totally understand. Yeah,
We're
I
there.
totally understand where you're at there. Woo, woo.
We're with
On
you.
it.
It just looks a little different.
But
It's kind of like how me and my oldest niece, she's also autistic. She's a sweetie pie, but we'll just sit in
mm-hmm.
the room. It'll be like me, her, my fiance. We'll sit in the room and we'll all just be chilling. It'll be silent. Me and my fiance do that all the time. We'll be doing two different things, but we're silent. But the vibration between each other keeps us linked together. It's a silent
Yeah,
language, and most people don't realize that it's a silent vibration amongst two
just
people.
being in your each other's vibration is, I mean, it's good enough for some people. Some people need that vibration of communication. They don't register that
Yeah.
vibration of just being in the room with your partner or being in the room with another person, that you can be content.
Yeah. It's so
So
nice too to not have to talk all the time. It's so nice. I have to tell you guys. I look like a chatterbox. I look like someone who is very extroverted. I dress like I'm extroverted. I speak like I'm extroverted. I like silence, sleeping, and long, long hours playing The Sims 4. Like I am truly an introvert that masquerades as an extrovert. Don't be fooled. I like silence. So I have rabbits. I like silence.
but some people, they love that silence. That way, even quiet isn't actually quiet. For some psychics, that vibration is loud as well.
Yes.
And hearing that, sometimes, like a white noise machine, people just
Mhm.
hear static. Some people can hear the voices within that static. There are a lot of things that come with vibration. So when you're
Mhm.
a psychic, depends on your sensitivity, And
Yeah.
but when it comes to different practices of psychic, you being a psychic, how do you feel about mediumship when you are receiving that message? Do you feel scared of it? Do you feel like you embrace the energy to provide that information? Does it make you uncomfortable? Some people I know makes it feel they don't like to feel that energy. They don't like to feel that. I
Mhm.
had a girl who was a medium who you could talk to her all day long getting a mediumship, but if she saw the person, she was gone.
She was
She was
gone.
gone. She was like, nope, not into the ghost thing, but you can definitely talk to me.
Like,
Just pick up that phone.
that was me at one
So,
point.
how do you feel about mediumship, and how do you embrace it? Are you okay with it?
I accept it now. When I was younger and that started developing, it was really scary for me. And spirit was like, "Oh, girl, we got to shut this off because you're not doing okay. You are mentally off the wall." Um, so I think I started developing mediumship around that 12, 13 age range. I was just weirdly aware of things and people and voices. Voices were a big one. Now we can contribute that to however you want, but I remember distinctly seeing shadow people. That scared the absolute life and spirit out of me. And especially going through it so early and seeing that so early, I was like, oh no, oh no. Spirit had to lock that down for a bit. They took that away from me
Mm-hmm.
because I was not mentally okay. There was too much going on. But as I'm older, I definitely accept it for what it is. I don't think I'm afraid of it now. If I like see a shadow in my house, or I do know there's something upstairs on my second floor, and I'm just like, if you want to talk to me, you can book a reading. It's like $4.99 a minute, but like go contact your person and tell them to book with me because I'm not scared anymore. I'm the one who is in my room smacking pans at the ghost. Like, y'all chill. Y'all are not paying light bills in here. Like, stop it. So I'm much more accepting now, but I do also look like that one crazy witch lady in the woods.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I even as a medium myself, I have to um, establish rules when it comes to my home, and because I can't have all
Can't have
that.
everyone just rolling.
When I first started, I had no boundaries, and they just came and gone. And
Yes.
that's where the boundaries ended up coming from. Is that I was like, I can't live like this. There's too much all the time. It was all the time coming in. So I learned at a young age that you need to put
Mhm.
up those walls. Plus, it's one of those things that with me, my parents told me that I always need to find protection. And I'm like, I got this, I'm good, and then you realize, put the
You're
boundaries up. You're stupid if you don't.
it's kind of weird because I never learned how to put those barriers up. So I was just going out here raw and unprotected into the wilderness and out here just spiritually open. Had no idea how to
Mhm.
close doors, open doors, keep the barriers up. I had no clue. I was just out here free as a bird. And it was horrible. That's why I'm like this now because I was just out here just open,
Mhm.
being communicated with, seeing shadows and stuff. And then the more I got into the occult, just in that world, the worse it got. And I was just like, there might be a
Yeah.
correlation, but you don't know. So I've only recently in the past like 2 years started learning, oh shoot, I gotta kind of protect myself a little bit.
Mhm.
I just
I have
started. I was a late bloomer.
I have a friend that uses a crystal, and when this crystal is out, she allows only within a certain radius of this crystal to allow spirits to come through. But once she covers it back up,
Hmm.
it shuts it down so she can live her life outside of the spiritual realm and still be able to
Hmm.
function as a person, because she doesn't like when she goes to cook, she's in her realm. When she goes to play video games like yourself, she's
Yeah.
in her realm. She doesn't want to be bothered. Now, that's not to say that important messages don't come through, because
Oh yeah.
important messages will break those barriers.
Yes. Yes. Always.
And so I'm pretty sure people would like to know, do you see things for yourself, or do you only see them for everybody else?
Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I mostly see for everybody else. I feel like spirit kind of said, "Wake up, girly," and threw me out here into the wilderness. I feel like I've been on autopilot for 31 years. It's all right though. I do mostly see for other people. I cannot always see for myself. I think my messages come much more directly. And usually it's in the form of when my health starts kind of tumbling down because I have an inflammatory chronic illness. When I start feeling off, that's when I'm getting more messages about myself and I'm having these epiphanies and I'm trying to figure out what is what. I'm never given a full message. I know a lot of people ask psychics or kind of wonder or maybe even assume that we have all the answers for not just you guys but ourselves. We don't. We go into this world blind as a bat until we learn to pick up signals. And even with those signals, I'm still lost. So I can see everyone else's stuff, but I am blind out here by myself. My messages don't always come for me. I don't always understand it. I don't always see it. But if you sit me down and ask me to pull you some cards, I can read you for filth. I can't do it to myself though. Like I cannot pull cards for myself. I'm one of those. Spirit said, you got to figure this out like these other humans out here. You don't get to just get a cheat code to life. You have to learn. I probably messed up.
I do. I do like to live my life. I don't ask. I don't usually go out of my way to ask anybody any type of psychic message because I know what psychic messages do. I do not that they're bad. Psychic messages are definitely not bad, but for me, I'm a little different. I can see for myself.
Yeah.
The thing is about how do I choose to listen to myself or do I make a mockery out of it? Now, mind you, as I've gotten older, I've learned to listen to myself and stop pushing it. Like I can change that. I'll make it happen.
Nope.
I've gotten past that. I've stopped doing that. I've gotten rid of that mentality. But I've started to accept. So when I see something for myself, I've learned to accept what's coming my way and understand that there's a reasoning behind it. And you're right when it comes to psychics not knowing everything. And the reason there's actions to be taken. How is one person going to reply? How is how is this going to happen? But without some kind of devastation, because everything in nature is, well, people would say it was bad and good, but it's nature. There are going to be things that we see as a good thing, but we don't realize that some of those bad things that we go through are actually really good steps for us. And it was the only way that we were going to let that part of ourselves go unless it was ripped from our lives. Yeah, but it brings, what does it bring? It brings forth that emotional energy, that courage that we needed to move forward, to really accept things for what they were, to get those life lessons, because without good or without bad, there would be no balance. We wouldn't know what good and bad was. We would just be. And what kind of life would that be? So, I mean, I know everybody wants peace, and there's ways to find that peace. And everybody's like, with all this, you should be able to do this, that, and the other thing. It's not that we can't. It's that we can't make others do it. Never, as a psychic, I've always told people, if you're getting a reading, never give somebody your free will. Do not give them all of your power. The free will is yours. You are capable of making choices. But remember, choices come with consequences. Now, if you've ever read a bio of mine, you would read that when I say you can turn a yes into a no and a no into a yes, it is up to you. Sometimes we don't want to change that, but we also need to remember we just got some information that we didn't have prior. And because of that information, we need to realize, okay, I need to go in with the same mentality. If I was stressing it, trying to get to this job interview, I need to stay stressing it. I need to give them my all, jump through hoops like a cheerleader, do whatever I got to do in order to make sure that I stay on that path that got me there. Because I know people that are like, oh my God, right now I'm looking at this and it's saying, hey, you you're going to get this job. And then you're like, oh, I got the job. Perfect. And then go to the interview like, sup.
It's
This is not the
never that
person I
way.
interviewed. It's never going to work that way.
Nope.
So,
And
but
yes.
girl, we've already made 45 minutes of airtime so far, and we've got questions awaiting.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and let's jump into those questions and see what we've got for you here. Guys, if you have a question that you would like to ask Bunny about Bunny, now these aren't psychic readings, guys. Those will be on tonight at 10 p.m. with Katie, the Intuitive Empath. So, guys, make sure you're checking that show out. And at midnight with Journey Ryan Live. So check me out. I'm good. I'm fun. All right, let's do it. Let's find out what our first question is tonight. We've got Debbie saying, is tarot or oracle better cards for a reading?
Ooh, okay. So, all right, Debbie. So you can kind of break that down into two different types of skill sets, right? Oracle and tarot are two different types of cards, and those are two different skill sets that each reader can have. I've learned recently, you can have some badass oracle readers who can read you to the ground and up. Oracle readers. I'm not one of them. I do traditional tarot, but more so to kind of build a picture on the message I've already received. It's like kind of putting a picture book together. It's like you got movie reels and you just got to make it stick. So it really depends on the person. Oracle, I feel like, gets more to a specific point about you yourself as a person, like you in this moment as a person. Tarot can kind of expand out or branch out a little bit into both, but is more direct with a question, if that makes sense. It really depends on what that person can do, what you think that person can bring you, and what you resonate with in that moment. What are you looking for? Are you looking for advice on yourself here as an individual, or are you looking for a broader perspective? And that's how you're going to kind of figure out oracle versus tarot, I think. I think that was a good way to explain it. I hope so.
There was. And we all connect to different tools. You've got some people out there that are automatic writers. They need that pen in their hand in order to connect to their mediumship. There are some people that love that traditional tarot, as you do. You love the traditional tarot. There are some people that connect better with those oracle cards. There are people that connect with dice, tea charms, tea leaves. Some of us don't use tools.
Yep.
Except for ourselves. We become the tool with, the speaker box.
Yeah. We're just,
I love using if you guys could see all the tools that I have when it comes to the spiritual realm of things. I've got so much. I've got tea charms, tarot cards, Ouija boards, spirit boards, dice, you name it. I pretty much have it. Tea leaves. I read them all. And I love using, because to me, each one gives me a certain way of reading or a certain technique to help expand. Not only the tools, to me, help you expand, they help you with your growth. And eventually you can use them to a point and then stop and continue to keep reading. And then when you're ready to re-expand or go further, you can, by using those tools. They'll show you a completely another avenue as to what they were showing you prior. So I really love tools.
I got a good analogy for it. It's kind of like how we have thoughts in our head, but we use a pen and a paper to write them down. We, as psychics, we already have the information. We just have to organize it in a real particular way so that you guys can digest it too. That's where the tarot, the oracle, the crystal balls, the pendulums, and all this other stuff comes in. Those are our guiding tools. That helps us write the story for you, because we're giving you a story. We're giving you what you need to know, but we have it all up here. And up here in the brain is all jumbled up. So it just helps us produce a nice, beautiful college essay for you about what you need to know. It's like a story outline, and that's what these tools help us do. So it all depends on the reader.
Absolutely. It does depend on the reader.
Yeah.
Because it's like markers. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite style of marker? Do you like washables? Do you like permanents? Do you like inks? Do you like gels? What do you like? Everybody has a preference.
And that's
all right. We've got Kelly. Kelly says, I think you'd be great at voice / character stuff.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I really would love to dive into voice acting more as I mean, I'm 31. It's becoming a hard industry to break into. You got to know someone who knows someone. I don't really know
Who
someone,
knows someone?
unfortunately. I do. Okay.
Who knows
Excuse
someone?
me. I know somebody. I just need to get my skills up, apparently.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
the more I do it, the more I'm falling in love with it. And I would love to do it like on the side from here, what I'm doing now. So one day I'll get there. I'm not going to say maybe I'll get there.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get there one day. I just got to
Right.
practice.
All right. We've got Princess Fiona says, so are shadow people safe? Are they stuck in this realm, or how should we view that? Good
Ooh,
question.
that's a really good question, Fiona. It's going to be a perspective issue for me. So Journey may have a different perspective and he may be able to explain it more. He has more experience, I feel like, in this realm. Are shadow people safe? I do not feel necessarily 100%. Are they stuck in this realm, or how should people view that? I do not know. Fully and foremostly, do not know if they are stuck here or what the intention here is. I think there's different subsections of everything. So are all of them bad? Like the ones who may live in the forest. I don't necessarily think the shadows in the forest are necessarily bad. The ones who come to the ones who bring light, those are the ones that I've encountered. Usually their job is to snuff that light out like a flame. And that's where it gets to a point where it can be unsafe because you're a young kid, you're seeing these things, you're not knowing what in God's name you're looking at, and you're being terrified. Sometimes it's harmful. It's not it's as harmful as something kind of tapping, poking. I do have physical encounters, or have had physical encounters with things like this where I've been poked, prodded, pushed. Um, that's what actually how I think that's how my insomnia came to be, quite honestly, because I don't sleep. And it's because I don't like being in complete darkness. And that's probably why. There are some that they just stand there and watch you. A lot of the times what comes through my house now is something that just stands and watches me. And I'm just like, you can book a reading. I'm not free, but hey, contact your people. So it really depends on your perspective. I'm not super skilled in this area, but from my experience, most of them don't want me to be existing here because I take away from them. That fear, they eat that. Most vengeful things, not happy things, they eat the fear we project. So that fear of ghosts and woo, spooky, spooky, they love that. They eat that up. That's breakfast to them. Some things just want to be left alone. It really depends. I think Journey has a better answer than me on this one, though. I'm not
There's
sure.
definitely there's a lot to it. Depending on some people seeing shadows, it just depends on the nature of anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Are you seeing shadows because that's all you can see right now as a medium, and you're catching glimpses of your elders or your family members, your crossed loved ones? Is it another spirit, your guides, whoever's trying to get in touch with you? Are you seeing spirits in the room? It really would depend on, is it, are you just not capable of seeing it fully? Is it just coming through as a shadow for you? Does it make you have fear? Try to
Yeah.
alleviate your fears. The more you start to try to see what is there or embrace what is there, the picture starts to open up a little bit. The restrictions start to release. It's like a
Yeah.
muscle. You got to work it out. Got to work it out. But I mean, it really just depends on the situation. Some
Oh, yeah.
spirits will only come in shadow form. They don't want you to see who they are because they
Yeah.
want you to listen to them and not pay attention to the representation of the person that they're coming as. They
Yep.
want you to focus on the message rather than the person, and that happens a lot too. I've seen that with mediums that only see the shadow side of the person because they would rather them focus on the message being delivered versus
Yeah.
who it was, why the message was given. They want you to focus on it because it's a direct message to the person who is receiving it. So
Yeah, it's a little tricky, unfortunately. When I was younger, I think the ones that I saw wanted to cause me harm because you're
well,
fresh,
you
light.
were right. You were there's that innocence about you, and then like let's smash that, let's stomp that out.
Yep.
And you get that, but as long as you don't allow anything to stomp out your light, you should be safe. All
I
right,
can't
let's go
imagine.
ahead. Yeah, you're here. We've got Kay. Kay says, is there any gift you're currently trying to develop or would like to in the future? Good question.
Ooh. So I do know eventually aura reading is going to become a thing for me because I've been having more experiences with that lately. I feel like I would like to get deeper into my dice readings, but I haven't figured out how to streamline that properly because I can read dice. Like I'm talking about D&D dice. I'm talking about numerical dice.
Mhm.
I can read that and apply it, but how to make it into an actual skill set is something I'm working on. Now, I would love to get into mirror scrying. I feel like I'm not ready for that just yet because my mediumship is just starting to come back after years of just being repressed. It's getting there. Um, it's gonna take a while, but I think those three are the ones that are mainly on my head. Like how exactly to make them all function, and eventually, like we said, it's a muscle. Eventually I'll get there, but those are like my big three right now.
Should be weightlifting those here soon, guys. Should be weightlifting those.
You have plans, I see. You have plans.
Hmm.
I'm about to
And
go
some of
camp.
those skills that you're talking about, I can walk you through slowly to help teach you and to understand them. And I teach much differently than most people. You can ask Squirrel,
Yeah,
helping her
I'm
out with her
down.
mediumship. She was petrified of her mediumship, but I'm
Mm,
allowing her to open that door slowly on her own time. You never
yeah,
force anybody to do anything they don't want to. And you explain to them the things that they may have misunderstood or the reasonings that they have blocks when it comes to
yeah,
their spiritual side of mediumship. A lot of people don't like to feel all that. When you open yourself to a mediumship, you're not opening yourself up to just your own emotions. You're
yeah,
opening it up to the person that you're reading and the person on the other side's emotions. Everything that life has brought to them, you're going to get hit with like a 10-ton safe.
yeah.
It's quick and wow and
It,
bang, and you're just like, damn it.
and it's exhausting.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And we've got time for one more, and then we're gonna have to call it a night. But we've got it from Kelly. Kelly says, "How does your fiance like your gifts?"
He'd be chilling, honestly. So my fiance, he is a Buddhist. So there's a whole different spiritual aspect to the both of us, but he accepts them for what they are. He listens to me sometimes, but also he has his own ability to read cards as well. However, he chooses not to, and I respect that. For the most part, he's cool with it. He rocks with my crazy pretty well. Like he
That's
accepts
good.
me and my gifts for what they are. He's very supportive. If I'm sitting here thinking about something, I need something, he's like, all right, so what do we need to go get? What do you need? What are we going to go do? He'll ask me questions. He's really inquisitive about what it is I'm doing. It's just like another part of me that he attempts to understand. And while he may not always understand every singular aspect of it, he does trust me and understand, I'm doing everything from a good place. So he is super supportive, which I love that. And sometimes he helps me with things.
That's amazing. You always need that great support team, especially coming from your, your partner, your lover, your marriage, your
Yeah.
whatever the person is to you. That you always need that support is always good.
Yeah. And I have that support now in my 30s that I didn't feel like I had. I'm going to say I didn't
Right.
feel supported. I was
Makes
supported.
a huge difference.
Yeah, even my parents are like in full support. My family supports me. My fiance supports me. I have a really close sector of friends and everyone here at the network who supports me. It's a lot different, and it's
Yeah.
been a really good growing experience because I feel more in control now. And I like that. I'm not in control. Spirit's going to find a way, say, all right, you think you're in control, but I feel like I'm in control. Let me be delusional. Let me be delusional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're like, let me be delusional.
Putting it on his shirt. Let me be delusional, please.
Well, Bunny, this has been amazing. Guys, make sure that you guys catch Bunny. She is on every Monday and Wednesday. Monday, she's here doing interviews. Today was her chance to have the shoe on the other foot, and I gave her interview today. But guys, don't forget, next Monday, she's going to be here interviewing me. We're going to talk a little bit about me. And then the following Monday, we'll be here with the amazing Cassidy, the card slinger. So, Bunny, thank you so much for letting us get to know you.
Oh, you guys are welcome. I'm not keen on talking
that
about
you're
myself.
Human as well.
It's hard because I don't like opening up, but I'll do it for y'all. I like y'all.
All right. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to open up with us. Guys, don't forget to catch Kay, the Intuitive Empath, at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. This is Journey Ryan and Bunny Sugars, and we will catch you guys on Wednesday on Down the Rabbit Hole with Bunny. See you later.